Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the 6th round of the Telenet Superprestige in Diegem night action, and with me here to discuss that is Issam.
Yes, thank you for having me.
As you can hear, I am on my way back from the race in Diegem. I contemplated a long time when to record this episode. It was my first time in Diegem, and the whole reason for that is this situation. When do you record? It's always close to New Year's, that's tomorrow, festivities and stuff going on, so this is in the end the best solution. I think the audio quality is not as good as normally, but it's also not horrible, so we will go with that. But if you do have complaints about the audio quality, then please do let us know and we will refrain from these recordings in the future. Good then, the racing in Diegem. Diegem the last few years has been a guarantee for close racing, and today we got another battle for the win in the men's elite category. Cyclocross at its purest, if you will, or at least when you're a little bit nostalgic like I am, seeing the Belgian tricolor take on the white pants tricolor of Tibor del Grosso, like the Belgian-Dutch tricolors going out against each other. That's just what cyclocross is, the battle between the low countries. And yeah, even if it's white pants, I will allow it, but also Joran Visure in the mix. It got off with Tibor del Grosso taking a very good start, flyer of a first lap, he broke clear. Thibaut Nys, not a great start, needed to move his way through traffic. And then there was, for the first half of the race, a bit of a chase. Del Grosso leading the charge, kind of refraining from excessive energy spending in the second half of the lap, but always taking more advantage through the sandpit. Eventually he decided that it was not his day to do a start-to-finish solo. He eased up a little bit, allowed Nys to come back. A few times Nys will drop through the sandpit, but there was no real need for Del Grosso to push on. He was clearly waiting for a later duel with Thibaut Nys. When the pace dropped, Joran Visure also closed the 20-second gap. He left behind Mees Hendricks and Niels van der Putten doing so. So we had 3 leaders, but everybody was looking at Nys and Del Grosso. In the penultimate lap, Tibor del Grosso was in the lead. He wanted to make a move perhaps in the sand section, but Thibaut Nys wanted to avoid that. So down by the train tracks, the 180 onto the climb, Thibaut Nys made a move down the inside. It became an accidental, unintentional Klaas van Tornout move because he put both the other riders in trouble. Visure foot down, Del Grosso completely off the bike. Nys looking for a good moment to attack. He opened a 6-second gap over Tibor del Grosso, but just a moment later it was all over for Thibaut Nys. In the sandpit he came too close to the tape on the side, got tangled up, went down, Visure went down over him. Del Grosso arriving a few seconds later just steamed by, and from there on was not caught again. He had a 7-second gap after that. Nys made one final big push up the climb, the paved climb in the final lap. He went from 7 seconds to maybe 4, but he blew off his hat totally there. He would finish third with Visure coming by, but Tibor del Grosso, the winner today, is this was a little bit of an anticlimactic finish. It was one decided by mistakes. That crucial moment was that penultimate lap. Nys not able to find his finesse through the sandpit today. The sandpit here in Diegem, from all the artificial sandpits we have, probably the hardest one on the circuit, and for Nys definitely causing him a lot of headaches today.
Yeah, although he was doing better than maybe I had expected, but I guess he kind of knew that today was gonna be for victory, especially against Del Grosso, who you have beaten already in Dendermonde. It is gonna be a worthy competitor, but definitely someone that if everything goes your way, you are actually able to have a chance of beating, and it must have helped mentally in a way, and your mindset is also, I think, a little bit better, and we have seen it with Nys. That is definitely something that helps him out. And overall, in the beginning, he went through the sand quite well, but I think the lap before he crashed, he was already quite close to the cord and on that side there, and definitely was quite visible in the races that we saw, also on the women's side, that on the right side for the riders, the left side for the viewers, on that sandpit, that was the best way to get through. It seemed just to be a bit easier to go through there, better ruts. Yeah, Del Grosso was going through it quite well. Nys struggled a little bit at the end of that sandpit, but overall was not going that bad, but he was taking more and more risks, which is normal. I think that his start definitely hurt him as well here in this race, where you had to chase, and Del Grosso was, I think, to be honest, if you look at the racing overall, he was almost the entirety of the race. He was in control. He was dictating the pace in a way. Nice was never really able to put him under pressure up until that moment there where he did the Klaas van Toorn out unintentionally. That was the whole fair game, of course, and Da Grosso had to unclip, and that is there. That's deadly, and then you have to get off your bike and run that section. That just costs you so much time, but I guess he must be a bit fortunate, because if he was in the wheels and Nice had that crash, he was in it as well. So now it wasn't Del Grosso, it was Viseur that was involved, and Del Grosso could make his move, go to the middle there of the sandpit, and off he went. And I think, sure, we were 100% robbed of a great battle, because I think they would definitely give it their all. Nice had a very strong section with that Regiments, Berg, that hill that you have just before you go there on that straight, and you have you have the bridge there, and then you have the corner where he made that move. That uphill section, there's a long uphill section. It doesn't seem like it's that steep, but it hurts. It hurts like hell, and you could see it when Nice really tried to make up some ground there on the last lap. It can really hurt you, and it can really bite. And Nice was also saying that the crash kind of hurt him a little bit, and I think that maybe that, and knowing that the victory was gone, then there's not really much to fight for. And Viseur fought the whole race and got second, and I think also a very deserving position for him. Maximize his results. Bit of a shame that he wasn't able to get going a little bit earlier. I think that kind of may compromised his position in the race. But also from his side, I think a strong outing, and maybe, one of his better races of the season.
This is in many ways the battle of the future, which you're looking at. Nice versus Del Grosso. They've both already, and we went over this a lot last year, like how they've both been named as the successors for the upcoming guys, like the Van der Poel, the resemblance of Del Grosso. I mean, Van Aert, he doesn't really resemble Nice that much, but just the two new guys who will carry the sport on their back. Nice, so many fans out there. Again, a lot of booing for Del Grosso today. Don't really like to see that, but yeah, Diegem is a race that really attracts a lot of drunks. Many people who don't see a single minute of the race, they're just drinking beers in the beer tent, and that's the type of race it is. And it's a bit unfortunate that apparently there's the need to boo a rider. It's not the end of the world. Like, as long as it's just booing, then yeah, it's not nice, but it's also not the end of the world, like I said. But yeah, just to circle back on yesterday's podcast, we were both quite eminent on the fact that one of these spectators grabbed Van der Poel. New video kind of shows it's perhaps more accidental than we thought, but the overall point we made yesterday, I think, still stands. With so many spectators on these courses, at some point there will be a discussion about double fencing the majority of the course, or around the beer tent, or around the key sections. They already do it at the World Championships for this exact reason. And today, yeah, again, just very noticeable that Del Grosso has quickly become a rider that is very booed, and perhaps that is the element that I just addressed, the Belgian champion versus the Dutch champion. That fight and the immense popularity of Thibaut Nys, which really can't be understated enough. To the racing then, because there were also some points there. You mentioned the start, Issam. The start is, for many races, you can't really win the race in the start, but you can definitely lose it. Today, Diegem is one of the courses where I could say that there is the potential that you can win the race with the start because of the off-camber. And all three races today, junior men, women elite, and the men elite, all had a quite severe start crash. That does influence it. Like Viseur, the Bogle effect, perhaps that hampered him. Nice, his getaway was not amazing, but just the way that there's the reaction to the crash quite far to the front. Van Toerenhout going down in this race. In the women elite race, it was Van der Heijden going down quite badly in the first corner. In the men junior, Patrick Petzo-Rosela just wiped out half of the field. I'm not over-exaggerating here. He was on the front row, moved left because there was some gap, and then tangled with the guy next to him, and half of the field went down. half of the front row went down on the ground. So definitely a hectic start here in Diegem. Just the combination of the start straight, which is kind of an S, the pressure to get to that chicane before the bridge, and then also the off camber. It's just really tricky here, and it's really important to dial your start here. And one of the few races where you can really win your race with a start, and Del Grosso nearly did that, but probably decided against it. I feel he could have pushed on longer, but made the smart decision to not do that.
That was a smart decision. You know, when you get such a gap, you have to make a decision. Do you feel well enough to commit on that gap and really go for it and give it your all? And risking kind of blowing up or misjudging the race distance in a way, and that you're just falling back and don't really have anything to fight with and for. And that was the best decision. You need to kind of, that's the kind of the second option that you get, that you're just trying to pace yourself quite well. You don't really let yourself get caught again, but if someone has to catch up, he has to work for it. And I think that was the best thing he could have done. Obviously, in the sand sections, he was always able to, like, it's a small difference what he was gaining there, but it was significant enough to just keep Nice under pressure a little bit. And Nice eventually came in with that with a crazy pull there, and was able to get back in the wheel. And at that moment, I thought, okay, now they will stay there. And then Nice messed up again in the sand. So it was a fun little battle, and it was actually heading towards a great finale, I guess. And then happened what happened. And that is also kind of, in a way, with Diegem, it's a tricky course, and it's a course where you can definitely lose it in nothing, in a way. Risky corners in a sense. It's just it brings that danger, and we saw it again today. It's a challenging course, and you have to take some risks, and especially for someone like Nice, that in the sand was not. He knows in advance, that's where I'm gonna lose time. I have to be ahead. I have to try and get through it well. Probably was, he saw the gap that he had on Del Grosso, at least could judge a little bit that Del Grosso was not there. You go into that and you're like, okay, I have to now focus, I have to get through it. And there it was, the small mistake that cost him a lot. And it is what it is, and that's also part of racing.
Continuing on a couple of other things you said, is the move Nice made, the overtake, Klaas van Tornout. You're telling me that was unintentional, but do you imply that Klaas van Tornout at the Belgian Championships did on purpose move his bike on the climb in front of Wout van Aert, because he was adamant after the finish that was an accident? You're telling me that was on purpose and this wasn't?
Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Klaas van Tornout would never lie about being sick or pulling a trickaroo out of the bag. He would never do such a thing.
No, he wouldn't. He's definitely a guy you can, he has that in him. He has that somewhat shithousery in of cyclocross. If you want to learn a thing or two, he can tell you about it if he's gonna be honest. And if he isn't, then he's obviously gonna say that everything was just, it just happened and it went his way at times. So with Nice, you could kind of see that he went for the move, and he was there and he was well alongside, and
Sure.
Then you have to. I think that Del Grosso kind of was maybe surprised a little bit, and that's why he, I guess, unclipped a little bit, because he slipped. And then when you're unclipping there, you have to be someone special to get back in and be able to get on that small hill. And he wasn't just able to do that. And when you have to get off your bike, you're just kind of you're cooked, and you have to remount again, and you lose so much time. So could have been move of the race, to be honest, because it was gonna be for Del Grosso quite a task to get back, and that's definitely not the effort that you want to make entering the last lap. So that would have been a nice battle, but we didn't get so far, did we? And I have to say, Van Torenhout today, apart from his antics and the way he was getting through the field, and for sure he was irritated, but he had some small head loss moments. I think that he today was really, really good, and screwed up his own race because it was his own fault that he wrecked himself and others. But he really, I thought that he was not going to to fight for it. But you could see, like, lap after lap, he was getting through the field, and you saw him getting more and more fanatic, and he really wanted to make something out of that race. So the legs clearly must have been there, and with adrenaline, he was just able to get through the field. And for the classification, just behind Van de Putte, who I think today missed out on an opportunity of, I would say, having more control over this classification, only manages fifth. That is a missed opportunity in my opinion, and the gap between the two is only 2 points. So I think that for the Van de Putte, I almost have to say a bad day, and for Van Toerenhout, coming from nowhere, getting back and really a stellar performance, I have to say.
Mythical. Mythical is the word I would use to describe the ride of Van Toerenhout. 80th position, my friends. 80th is where he was after the start, and he just started chopping through the field, and he had quite a lot of supporters out there today cheering for him. It must have given him really the morale to keep his head in there. Like you said, he definitely had some head loss moment with Fontana. He was probably annoyed that there were no teammates anymore to pull for him. Corsus did a good pull for him, I saw off camera. There was a few other Pauwelsausen guys a bit further down there, definitely trying to help their leader just a little bit. But it takes some real resilience and overcoming adversity to keep your head in there after such a disastrous start. And when I talk about losing your race in the start, yeah, a crash is a really good way to do that. And Van Toerenhout kind of did that because, yeah, he would have been in the fight for the victory without. But then to ride like this and come back like this, okay, he gets gifted one place in the end by Gerben Kuipers, but who cares about the exact placement? To ride from there back into the top 10, not against, as they say here, against pancakes, against some farmers, against riders who don't belong there. No, against seriously good riders. And don't fall into the trap of, oh, he was a minute down and now he finishes 40 seconds down, so he was a lot quicker. The front didn't go all out all the time, but still, the lap times he was putting in were really good. They were in traffic, on par for a lot of the race with the leaders, also in the laps that they went quite hard. So that should definitely be applauded. And when I say that, I mean, we've kind of quickly glanced over Johan Viseur, but for me, definitely the ride of the season so far for him. I wouldn't necessarily call it mythical, but maybe generational. That's also probably a bit too much, but regardless, just a very good ride by Viseur. He was up there. I never had the feeling that he was really going to challenge Nys or Del Grosso for the win. Nys blows up, he maximizes his performance with second place, but the effort he put in at that timing, the timing was really great today, because Hendricks was good, but burned some matches earlier on, whereas Viseur, he just waited a bit and got under steam, like you said earlier, Issam, and made the move at the perfect time. He came across, Hendricks got stuck 5 seconds behind, Viseur was with them for the rest of the race. Hendricks needed to fight in the other group for fourth. The timing in cyclocross, it's so important. It's the same with the mistake of Nys. The timing, if that happens a lap earlier, no problem, he'll come back, the pace drops a bit. But now in the penultimate lap, other than the last lap, is the worst time it can happen. You need to be able to perform under pressure, in the pressure cooker. Nys today, at that moment in the sand, was not able to execute. Viseur executed perfectly on the climb to bridge across, and it results for him in, by far, his best finish of the season. Or, well, I guess he won the very opening race of the season, but at this point, do we really care about the Exactcross in Meulenbeke? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I think in the classified races, this is his best result. So there were moments where we were thinking, where is Viseur? He's gone missing, and he, to be honest, he bounced back okay from that. He gave us somewhat a sign of existence, and he was getting better and better. You could see that. But I think especially that race in Zolder, that was a very good sign. And when you see that, you're like, okay, well, he's getting a little bit back to a level that we see as acceptable for him. And he's a talent, that shouldn't have been disappearing. He was just in a very bad phase, and that is something that you have in a season at times, and it's definitely not something that you wanna have, but it sometimes happens. And I think today he had very good legs. Would he have been able to be a bit earlier in the group and not that far back and having to close that up, which was a hell of an effort, by the way? despite the fact that they were up front, kind of playing around a little bit, but not all that much. But there he was, and he sees that opportunity and was able to bridge the gap. And I think he definitely deserves some praises for his race today. And Hendricks, you know, I don't know how he does it at times, but he has this season he had some races where you have a start, you look at it, and who is there up front, or at least in second, it's Mace Hendricks. So and his season so far has also been up there. He wasn't always the greatest out there, but overall, I think if you look at his last couple of races, it has all been up there. And today he kind of gets a. Was it last year that we saw also Kamp in the top 10 as well? I think after not really being up there, I think it's a bit different situation here because he has shown himself, Hendricks, in the last couple of races. He was up there. He was always fighting in the top 10. So he's definitely in a phase now that, this kind of reward, I guess, for the great period he's going through for his level.
With this good stretch of results for Hendricks, this can really become a hell of a season for him. And look, the career of Hendricks has been full with ups and a lot of downs. Some okay years in a junior, then lost his ride. I remember in U23 Worlds Dubendorf, he was just racing in a black kit before got selected, and then made the podium there in Dubendorf. No contract, got picked up by the Roodhoofds, lost his ride there as well after not really being able to deliver. Now the thing is, he seems to have figured it out, but he really needs to keep up these results, these type of performances, and it's still a great story of resilience and recovery. And I will go over the entire top 10, but almost every rider in the top 10 today has a story. So I think at the end we'll have gone over almost all of them. Delgossa with the win ahead of Iseuren, Nijs, Hendricks and Van de Putten. Van Toerenhout up to 6th, 7th place for Gerben Kuipers, 8th Orts, 9th Fontana and 10th Michels. I mean, there's almost no riders here in the top 10 who are really disappointed. I mean, there's definitely some riders here missing today. It helps also for them. And the unfortunate news, yesterday when we recorded, we didn't know this yet, but Sveke's crash was a bit worse than we both thought. He crashed in the final corner. He broke something in his shoulder, underwent surgery in Herentals, and it's the end of the season for him. But today, in the top 10, Gerben Kuipers, best performance of the season, finally starting to look like a shadow of the rider he was a few years ago. Still not remotely close to the potential that I thought he had after that season in which he did so well at the Hogerheide World Championships. I believe 6th place from the top of my head. But again, you need to grasp something. Let's his future leader, Van Toerenhout, they will be teammates starting January 1st through. Fontana, really good race. We discussed him already, so we can leave him. And then finally, for me, also a really good ride by Felipe Ors. He could have been in the mix for that 4th place, but he too had, I believe it was a puncture, Issam.
That was unfortunate because I think, of course, like we got today, fast in a way. Yeah, it's somewhat. It has Ors somewhat written all over it if he has his day, and it was doing quite well up until that, and it's kind of part of it. It hurts when you are having those issues, and then it's also kind of hard to get back into it because the racing, goes on, and it goes on quite fast, and it's just because the course is quite fast as well. A puncture kind of hurts you more than it would normally would, in a sense. So yeah, he's getting in a somewhat better period. I think with Dendermonde as well, where we got a fast race, he was also doing well. Zolder was also a strong outing from Orts, and I think he had some bad races, but he is picking up the pieces, I guess, a little bit, and he is bouncing somewhat back from a period which wasn't all too great. For sure, he didn't get the courses that he kind of wants, also, and now he can somewhat flourish and make use of this somewhat dry Christmas period that we had, and somewhat fast Christmas period that we were having.
Let's move to the women's racing then, because there we had not really a big battle for the win, but there was some form of tension towards the end of the race, because in the first lap already, Puk Pieterse took a flyer. She didn't have the best start, but quickly charged into the lead, broke clear, and honestly at that point it seemed like everything was in the bag for her. It seemed like without Brandt there, we saw a continuation of what we saw in Dendermonde. Things are starting to click for her. The technical rust is being shaken off. The form seems to be improving just that little bit every day. And she opened a 20-second gap over a very strong Marie Schreiber. But then Peters had a flat tire, the gap went down to 5 seconds, and Schreiber really, from that point, put the pressure on with a couple of good passages through the sand pit, but ultimately Peters unfazed really by that, remaining flawless, really having a lot of extra speed on the long downhill section, jumping the barriers as well. Definitely that saved her a few seconds each lap this race, and she went on to take the win. Second place for Marie Schreiber. Third place for Alvarado. She probably blew up a little bit trying to follow Petersen. Then a bit in no man's land. Third place for her. The gap to Blanca Vash in fourth was quite considerable, Isam. So Petersen with the win. Like I said, it seems that things are on the up for her, which we've also seen the last couple of races. And again, it's always a bit deceptive here. The number of riders starting today from the top wasn't that high. Inge van der Heijden, one of those few contenders we thought there would be, crashed in the first corner, seemed quite hurt. I haven't heard anything from that yet, but she definitely stayed on the ground a long time there. Aniek van Alphen already didn't have a good day, got from bad to worse when she also, I think, crashed or flatted in the final lap. She was with Neff for 5th place and then just fell back even further. But today, no Ribeirol, no Foucounet, no Brandt, no Géry, a couple of top riders really sitting out this one, allowing opportunities for other riders in the top 10. But the gaps were quite big at the front, and Petersen prevails.
Petersen indeed prevails, and that is a trend. We have been seeing a Petersen that is growing in this season, and if it wasn't for Brandt, that first win would have maybe arrived a little bit earlier, but here it was, and Schreiber was very good and better than I expected, to be honest. In a way, it's hard to judge really how, what is going on. In a sense, of course, the stories are there, but in a way also you have to look at the momentum that she has during certain races, and there's always something happening, and from there on it switches off. And today that moment never really arrived. It was, I wouldn't say a perfect race, but she never really had a bad moment. She was able to get through the sand quite well, quite strongly actually, and throughout the course was able to negotiate that well, and never really had a big mess up or anything, and that maybe helped. And she didn't really get out of a rhythm, and she went on. And there was a moment that Petersen, definitely was losing some ground on Schreiber, from what I have heard, and that was said on the Belgian broadcast. Petersen had a puncture, allegedly, and that was the reason, in a way, why she lost that ground. And if that puncture was something that she had for quite a period of time, if it was far from the pit box, that will cost you also some energy, and that will, linger on in a way, and that maybe made it look like Schreiber was even in a better phase than she actually was in that race, if you look at the circumstances, of course. But Schreiber was doing very well, and she started to believe in a potential victory, and we have seen it on the men's side, and that could have happened with Petersen if she messed up somewhere or anything happened. The gap was maybe a little too big for small hiccups, but if the hiccup was a bit bigger, Schreiber was maybe in it, and then you don't know what can happen. So that didn't happen. I think she can still be very happy with it, and it looked like when she crossed the finish line, Schreiber, that she was very happy with it. Petersen is continuing to grow into this season, and hopefully it will only be better and better, and who knows, maybe we'll see her, if the courses suit her also well, we could maybe see a battle. Who knows? Brandt might be able to be challenged by someone. That would be something to look forward to, so hopefully that can be realized in a way, and both Petersen and Schreiber can look back on a race that was very, very strong, very good. And hopefully Schreiber is going to be able to continue this as well, because this is definitely a moment where you can bounce back from and be like, okay, this is my season. I will not let this go. I will not let this slide. I will now pick up where we have left off in a way with Diegem and continue on with the season with this positive flow.
Petersen really loves this race. It has to be, I think, 2019 when she and Van Anrooy, both as juniors, kind of I wouldn't say had their breakthrough, because they had certainly been on the radar already, but the first time that in Belgium by the big public they were really noticed. They were in the podium contention. Van Anrooy, I remember, flatted in that race, went into the pits after the sand pit, but there was nobody there for her. She only had one set of mechanics, and they were in the other material post. I think this is the only race of the big races that still has the two single pit zones, and it's very hard to see that ever change here with just the nature of this course. Just so stretched out, and yeah, that's a violation of the UCI rules, but because it's Diegem, I will see it through the fingers without making a big point of it. But definitely a good outing by her. Physically it looks better. Can she challenge Brandt? Who knows? I've said it before. I hope that she avoids the illness. She's had that the last 2 years. Just full fitness. There's one race that matters this season for her, and it's the World Championships. Hulst is a course that really suits her. It has some technical aspects which she can use to her strength. There will likely be a bit of mud, a bit slickness. That too should play in her favor if she can avoid those mistakes which cause her to crash. But she's just becoming more confident on the bike, and with fast courses like Benidorm but also Diegem, there's very quickly the tendency to say, it's not that technical, and that is true, right? This is not a technical course. Benidorm also is not a technical course, but especially on those fast courses you really need to be super confident on the bike, and it's easy to think road riders will do good in those courses because it's fast, there's quite some road sections, and sure, that plays to the benefit, but you need to be confident on your cross tires to take these paved corners, and that I think is something that is growing a lot by Pietersen. The way I saw that today definitely seemed better than when I saw her earlier this season in Namur, for instance. So things on the up for her. Schreiber making me kind of eat my words, although I didn't really criticize her. I just yesterday gave an explanation in Loenhout, kind of saying, it's been rough for her, what can she really take away from it? And now she has kind of what I said she needed, something to build upon. She gets a good race in. You said one without incidents, Issam, and that much is true, but I've also seen other races this season kind of without incidents, and she was nowhere. Like Dendermonde, for instance, nothing really there, but she finishes the triple header off strong, and I will say this is a course that suits her quite well. We know she loves the faster courses, not a rider that excels in the mud, but even then, a much needed up, I would say, for her, and perhaps finishing more in the place where I would have expected her teammate Blanca Vash, although for Blanca Vash, she's kind of the opposite. Vash is not a rider who does well on these courses. It's too fast for her. She's better in the mud and with the climby stuff.
Yeah, but normally she would also do all right here. So I know what you mean, though. I definitely agree. I agree with that. But she can also kind of excel in a way on such a course as we got today, and I think in a way it was a decent performance. It was not nothing of the ordinary, but she was up there, and I think that this is just part of having those races under your belt, and trying to find some points where you can improve upon and try to get better and better, and try to in a way also in the back of your mind you're thinking also about the road season, and she's definitely also someone that has ambitions there and wants to do good there, and can definitely support as they works in the racing that they do over there and on the road. So that is also something that you take in consideration in terms of preparation and how they also look at cyclocross in a sense. But it's not only that. You also want to do well in the cyclocross season overall. You want to be there at the championships. Who knows what can happen there? So you're trying to improve. You're trying to get better and better. And you can see signs that she is getting better and better in this season. And hopefully that will continue on, and she will be able to be at her best when the World Championships are arriving, and who knows what that will bring. But today was okay. It was good, a good outing from Blanca Vash.
Yeah, it was a solid ride for Blanca Vash, and for her too. There's just one race that counts this season. It's the World Championship, and that's the case for many of the riders here. For instance, also Célia Gerige didn't race here, but I spoke with the French national coach in Loenhout yesterday, and I discussed a little bit her ride in Dendermonde, and he said he encouraged her to go out all all out, like the first few laps, to kind of see like where it would take her, what her limits would be, how she stacks up against the top woman. So just wanted to share that. And if we say Vash solid, Alvarado for me maybe a tad disappointing. I'd hoped for more after the performance in Antwerp. Not really been able to replicate that, but it's also not disastrous. She's at a good level, and we will see. It's very difficult to come back from such a long injury and then still reach your top level in a season. So I also don't want to be overly critical of her. Let's look at the entire top 10 then, because it was Buck Petersen, the red, white and blue, defeating Marie Schreiber, the red, white and light blue. Third place for Alvarado, ahead of Blanca Vash and Jolanda Neff. Then Rebecca Garibaldi in 6th place, Aniek van Alphen 7th. 8th went to Lien Burkier, ahead of Rebecca Garibaldi, with Larissa Hartog completing the top 10. Really a big dogfight for those final positions in the top 10. A group of some 5, maybe 7 riders fighting it out there. Several surprising names in there. Alyssa Sarkisov was in the mix there. Mia Asseltine was in there. It was a really good battle there. That was quite entertaining to watch, if I say so myself, from the in-person POV. But in terms of performances, yeah, a lot of riders weren't there. Cool to see Leticia Borghesi for EF Education in the top 10. But yeah, I don't really attach too much value to it with so many absentees. It's cool for them to get an opportunity. Burkier, another solid ride for her. Good to see that she's returning to some sort of respectable level and refining the joy in the riding, is something she said earlier to Direct Velo. So that much. But if I want to discuss anyone, at least for me as some, that would be Jolanda Neff. I think this was another good outing by her. Everything considered, a good outing for her. And for Van Alphen, it really looks like, first of all, the tank is empty, but then also something happened. I believe a puncture or mechanical in the final lap. It didn't look like she crashed, but something happened, because she would have normally finished 5th, which we would still have said is a sign that things are kind of getting empty. She's in every classification. She's been racing since the start of the season, has been trying to keep all those classification balls up, and in this period of the year with just so much racing, so many fresh riders coming into action, that just takes a toll.
Oh yeah, but I think for her the biggest positive she can take from this race is the classification is now almost certainly in the bag. You know, you should not have anything happen to you, but with how the points are awarded in the Superprestige, this should normally be she's normally in a very strong position, 9 points ahead of Van der Heijden and Fouquenet. We don't know if we can expect Van der Heijden in Gulligem, and I think Fouquenet normally would start there, but I don't really know for sure. But in terms
Yeah,
of
she
that,
will.
she will. Well,
She will, and actually, like you said something about the jersey. She will be in a blank French national champion jersey, because they don't have the Pauwelsauze French champion jersey ready. They only signed the contract the morning of Dendermonde.
so they're not able to. Wow. Okay. Well,
Yeah, that's
they
not
were having
Pauwelsauze fault. For Mark, problem.
Yeah. Okay. Well, okay. Then I won't be too hard on it. But it is what it is. But well, that's. I think normally she's not going to be. You can always find a way of messing up such a lead in a way, but I think normally that should be somewhat of a comfortable lead. But it is true that Van Alphen at the moment is going into a kind of weaker phase of the season. It's not terrible, but there is going to be a moment where you have to kind of switch it up and get back into the results where you kind of were, and be on a level where you kind of were somewhere early in the season. So that is going to be important for her to find that groove again, and be more up in the rankings, and just have a better feeling, and that will be her task, I guess. But overall, I think if you look at that, winning the Superprestige, which most likely will be the case, I think that is definitely a positive to take from this race. And with Neff, I'm surprised with the amount of races that she's been doing. I mean, it's really becoming a serious season in a way, and a pleasant surprise, I have to say. It's really nice to see her there giving it her all. The sand is definitely still I think that she can work on and try to master a little bit more. But it's I think cyclocross is in a very privileged position to have someone like Nev riding around there and giving it a roll, taking it super seriously, and eager to learn and eager to get better and better. And I can only praise that.
Certainly, she'll race at least until the Swiss Championships, but potentially race through until Worlds. We have an interview with her on our Substack and after Namur, so that for if you want more on Jolanda Neff. I think that wraps up this episode. Thank you for being here, Essam. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Absolutely, thank you for having me. And this is what we are going to close the year with.
Yep, the last one of 2025. We will be back bright on January 1st because then Baal kicks off a quadruple header to finish off the Christmas period. Baal, Mol, Gulligem, Zonhoven. 2 more races in person for me, 4 races in total. Should be another good series. Thanks everyone for listening. Catch you guys soon. Goodbye.
Bye bye.